we just gonna get into the video. What's good, YouTube? It's the Big Smoke Dog, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button and you hit that bell. It don't cost nothing to show a nigga love, so go ahead and hit that motherfucking sub. We about to react to a video that was recommended by this nigga, Young. Yeah, I'm on that. We're live right now, actually, on Twitch as we're recording this, but yeah, we're for to react to this long ass video that's an hour goddamn long. The nigga decided to pull up and talk shit, and he been on some whole shit, but it's cool. It's whatever. You feel me? I'm not bothered by it or anything. I am a little bit, but we over here, we kicking in shit, man. We're finna get into this video. It's gonna be probably like a 4-part video. So we're gonna do 15 minutes and then, you know, boom, boom, boom. Cause this bitch is an hour long. And I'm not watching this. I know y'all not gonna wanna watch this bitch for a whole hour either. Like, no. So we're gonna chop it up, boom, boom, boom. And then we're gonna get to it. I know this nigga Young gonna make sure I do part 2, 3, and 4. So don't worry, the shit gonna get done. We gonna get to it. But this that New York's deadly gang war, the Bronx versus Harlem. We finna get ready to it. Let's get to it.
Investigation underway in Harlem after a man was stabbed to death. It happened just before 1 this morning on West 100.
10-year-old boy has been charged with killing another teen on a subway platform.
The plea came after the shooting death of an 18-year-old boy.
Children running for safety. This happened in the Bronx.
Now, New York City is one of, if not the most well-known cities in the entirety of the world, as well as being one of the most diverse cities attracting tourism from all over the world. New York City has multiple well-known landmarks. In the heart of the city lies Times Square, as well as skyscrapers like the Empire State Building. As of 2022, the population of New York City is around 8.3 million people living in and around the 5 boroughs that make up the larger New York City. These 5 boroughs being Staten Island, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and finally the Bronx. These last 2 boroughs, Manhattan and the Bronx, being areas that have had a large gang presence, with these street gangs being at war with one another, resulting in deadly shootings playing out in broad daylight in front of New York City's most iconic landmarks. In recent years, the drill scene in New York City would explode and gain mainstream attention, leading to the young rappers involved in these small street gangs gaining super fame overnight. Now, you might be confused as to why groups of teenagers, based in 2 completely different boroughs, are at war with one another. This deadly gang war leading to the deaths of over 20 people in both Manhattan and the Bronx. The first street gang I'll be discussing within this video is that of YGs, which stands for Young Gunners. The YGs gang was created in 2003 and was largely based around the Patterson housing projects, as well as the Mott Haven houses in the Bronx. The original older members of the YGs would be swept up by police in a federal indictment, leading to the older YGs facing major charges put towards them. This then resulted in the Youngers taking over. The YGs gang would later move around areas within the Bronx and has created new sets under the YGs name, examples of these being RPT, this being a group of YG's members based around the River Park Towers housing complex.
Where we at right now, man?
This group of members also make up an alliance known as Fours, which then makes up the larger YG's alliance. You may know this gang as the popular Bronx drill rapper D-Thang hails from here. MHG is another gang that falls under the larger YG's alliance. MHG, or Most Hated Gunners, is a gang of YGs that are mainly based around Mott Haven, which is often credited to have been the birthplace of the YGs. This MHG crew being
hold
the
on,
YGs.
hold the fuck on. Hold the fuck on. Go again.
The larger YG's alliance. You may know this gang as the popular Bronx drill rapper D-Thang hails from here. MHG is another gang that falls under the larger YG's alliance.
Okay.
MHG, or Most Hated Gunners, is a gang of YGs that are mainly based around Mott Haven, which is often credited to have been the birthplace of the YGs. This MHG crew being the YG's gang that the popular rapper Yus G's is a part of. Other sets of YGs include ECG, which is repped by Shaw G's, and finally 800, which is the crew repped by Nesty Flocks. Other rappers that are a part of the YG's alliance are those of N. Spinalot from RPT, Ede Guns from RPT, and finally Wu Lottie from MHG. It's important to note that other gangs are also closely allied with YGs, but aren't technically considered YGs. An example of this being the gang Grizzly Gang, which shares the same beef as YGs, but aren't considered YGs. Similarly to the Grizzly Gang, another gang known as Drilly is also allied with YGs, and beefs all of their ops. This Drilly crew became well known in the New York drill scene, after rappers like Lee Drilly would make some real noise within the streets. These YG's allied crews have beef with the nearby DOA alliance, as well as OY from Upper Manhattan and OGs, also based within the Bronx. But to make things simple, I'll explain each gang and who they have beef with.
Okay, thank you.
DOA, which stands for Dumping on Anything, is an alliance of gangs in the Bronx. This alliance directly opposing the YGs. It's thought that the DOA alliance was created around 2015 or 16 and mainly consisted of the gangs Sev Side, Rayway, and Third Side. Although since then, other gangs under the DOA name have become prominent, examples being 380 and Six Way. This DOA gang also identifies as EBK, or Everybody Killer, which meant that they had a rivalry with all surrounding gangs, having little to no affiliation with other gangs. For simplicity's sake, however, I'll only be discussing the main gangs involved with DOA, these being Sev Side, Rayway, and Third Side. Rappers associated with the Sev Side DOA gang include K-Flock, Dougie B, and B-Love, who was close with K-Flock but was from the OG's gang. In the Rayway gang, the rappers include C-Blue as well as Set the Trend. Finally, the Third Side gang's most notable members include Zay Muna and No Love Muna. This DOA alliance of gangs has a rivalry with every gang discussed within this video.
Hey, B-Love still do music? If he do, hey, drop some in the comments, let me know.
Includes YGs, which is crazy, as one of DOA's most well-known rappers is K-Flock, and the most well-known rapper from YGs is D-Thang, these two rappers actually being cousins. It's also important to note that other gangs are closely allied with DOA, but aren't really considered DOA. An example of this being the gang Slattery Boys, this gang sharing the same beef as DOA. As well as these gangs, two other street crews have a rivalry with both DOA and YGs, these two gangs being known as OY, or Original Youngins, and OGs, or Original Goons. OY is a gang that is mainly located around a small neighborhood within Harlem, Upper Manhattan, this neighborhood being known as Sugar Hill. The OY gang was created around 2005. Since then, however, the OY crew has spread around Manhattan and also has territory in other places. Now, a lot of the OY members also rep the area, which is Sugar Hill, examples being Sugar Hill Keem, Sugar Hill D-Dot, and Sugar Hill DD. But to make things simple, Sugar Hill and OY are basically the same thing. The OY gang had a close tie with another small gang known as OGs, with the gang even going by OY OGs. However, since 2022, the two gangs would split, although I'll speak about this later on in the video. Popular members of OY include DD Osama, E.Baby, and Duty Low, to name a few. The final gang is that of OGs, which is a small street gang that mainly hails from Cortlandt Ave within the Bronx. The gang was originally close with the YGs gang around the early 2010s. However, following a dispute between members, young YGs affiliated gang members would branch off, creating their own gang known as OGFC, which stood for Original Goons from Cortlandt, before then just changing their name to OGs, or Original Goons. The OGs gang would have a close alliance with the OY gang from Sugar Hill. This would change, however, in 2022 following a dispute between members. The OGs gang has beef with YGs, OY, as well as DOA, with the most popular member hailing from the OGs, being that of Shaw EK, who gained a following after dropping songs like New Ops. Now, this may all sound confusing, so to simplify things, the war I'll be discussing is OY based around Sugar Hill versus YGs versus DOA versus OGs, these gangs all beefing each other. Now that you know what gangs are involved in this war, we can now take a deep dive into what gangs all beefing each other. Now that
OYs, YGs, DOA, OGs. What? Wait, so they all cool with each other, but they all don't fuck with each other. That don't even make any sense. Or am I tripping? Cause did he just say that they alliance with? Did he say they was in alliance with them, but they take on their beef, but not cool with each other? They beefing. Okay, I was just a little confused.
You know what gangs are involved in this war, we can now take a deep dive into what made these teenagers from completely different areas begin to have a dangerous and deadly rivalry that has subsequently resulted in dozens of murders occurring within the streets of New York City.
Shooting that left a teenager injured in the Bronx. You can see a man and woman walking along Grand Avenue in the Claremont section. The man pulls out a gun and shoots down the street.
Can't wait to see Auntie now.
The The YG's crew would be created around 2004 by Jew Hef from the Mott Haven neighborhood. Another member of the YGs was that of Melly Mel Baller, who was close with Jew Hef until around 2010, when the two gang members would have an argument about an alleged robbery. Melly Mel Baller and a few other members then decided to split off from the YG's gang, and went on to create a gang known as GFC, which was based around Cortlandt Avenue. GFC stood for God's Favorite Children, but would then change their name to OGFC, which was an acronym for Original Goons from Cortlandt, before then changing the name one final time to OGs, or Original Goons. This OGs crew would go on to rival their old friends from the Mott Haven-based collective YGs. It's believed that as the years went on, members from the OGs gang would claim other territories in New York City, one of these being Sugar Hill, from Upper Manhattan. This area would later be the home to young gang members that repped the crew known as OY, or Original Youngins. This OY gang was very closely allied to OGs, even spawning the name OY OGs, which was something often mentioned in tracks created by either OGs members or OY members. This alliance between OY and OGs would end in 2022 following a dispute between members. However, I'll explain that later in the video. Similarly to the OGs gang, the YGs gang would move their territory as well, moving to River Park Towers, which is where the RPT gang was created. These towers included 4 residential buildings, built and completed in the 1970s. The towers have been renowned for illegal activities taking place within the apartments. Anyways, the RPT gang is a group of YGs that are allied under the larger YGs alliance. One of their most well-known members was that of D-Thang. Around the early 2010s, the tension between both YGs and OGs would escalate following the brutal murder of a teenage OGs member. On the 16th of April 2012, a group of YGs would be drinking and getting drunk. The group of young gunners would get into an argument with one another about who was the most dangerous and active member. In an attempt to settle the debate, the group of YGs decided to travel from their block onto Cortlandt Avenue, which is the home of the OGs gang. Upon reaching the rival area, which was a few blocks away, the bloodthirsty YGs searched for rival OGs for a few minutes, before then noticing 16-year-old Noah, who was standing with a friend outside of his home building. The group of YGs launched an attack on Noah and his friend. 2 of the attackers focused their attention toward Noah, who by this point was on the floor. The attackers then stomped on Noah, causing severe injury. Noah's friend was also being attacked by the members, with a witness to the crime then alerting police of the attack. After a few minutes, the attackers fled on foot and police would arrive. Police would originally believe that Noah had been shot dead due to the severity of the murder. Noah was rushed to hospital but would sadly be pronounced dead hours later. A murder investigation would see the arrests of all of the YG's members involved in the attack, with them receiving lengthy prison sentences. Whilst the OGs would attempt to carry Noah's name in a positive light, taking pictures at his gravesite. Following his death, rival gangs would begin to heavily disrespect him. A prime example of this being D-Thang, who would rap on a track titled Tactical with T-Dot, going as far as to say he would dig up Noah's grave and stomp on him, just how the YGs did in 2012. This is all crazy, as if you do the math, D-Thang was around 10 years old when Noah was killed. However, D-Thang's age didn't stop him from getting active in the streets, supposedly being an active YGs member since the early 2010s, with an old Instagram live video even emerging from when D-Thang was around 13 or 14, this portraying both Wu Lottie and D-Thang on an Instagram live.
Yo, Cypress, run again? This ain't fun, nigga. Bro, I got that schoolie on me, boy.
This becoming sad when you come to learn that only a few years later, Wu Lottie would be stabbed and killed, resulting in a dangerous feud that subsequently resulted in the murders of countless people. At the start of 2013, Jew Hef, the founder of the YG's gang, would drop a song featuring A-Bless. Within the song, you can hear Jew Hef rapping about how the YG's gang was very prominent within the underground drug scene.
Can you see it? Better believe it. I'm moving heavy cane, all white, everything, water like a hurricane.
This may have been a mistake, as around 2015, a federal indictment would occur against the YG's gang, picking up over 20 members of the YG's crew, all on different charges, although I'll speak about this later. It would be a year after the death of Noah that the founder of the YG's, Jew Hef, who I just spoke about, would be killed in an extremely brutal way, even being disrespected today by younger members of the OGs and other rival gangs. On the 26th of August 2013, Jew Hef as well as other YGs would be attending the Tropicana nightclub within the Bronx at around 3 a.m. A brawl between the crew of YGs and a rival group known as Flybridge, or Highbridge, would break out. The brawl quickly turned deadly when an attacker used the end of a hookah pipe to beat Jew Hef, who by this point went into a coma. Emergency services quickly arrived on the scene and would transport Jew Hef to hospital, where he remained in a coma for a few days. Sadly, however, a week following the deadly attack in the nightclub, Jew Hef was pronounced almost dead in the hospital. Upon hearing that Juhef had died, members of the OGs would begin to taunt the YGs and would constantly mock Juhef. On one occasion, OGs members would travel to Juhef's memorial and would urinate all over it. Even though Juhef died over 10 years ago, young members of the gangs that rival YGs often still disrespect him. PJ Glizzy, who was a notable member of the OGs, would rap on his track titled Muddy, in which he said he was smoking on dead rivals, including Juhef. This then being followed by the eerie bar, Boy got beat with a hookah to death. Following the death of Juhef, police would begin to look into the gangs, and in 2015, a federal indictment would be put against the YG's gang. This indictment included 22 members of the YG's gang and 26 other Bronx gang members. The YG's members would later be charged with racketeering offenses as well as 3 murders, drug trafficking, and finally firearm offenses. This indictment would actually identify some of the people responsible for the brutal murder of Noah 3 years earlier, and would result in the members responsible being given lengthy prison sentences. These indictments wouldn't end for the New York gangs, as in 2016, over 100 members of the YGs would be taken down for at least 8 murders linked to the gang, this then being one of New York City's biggest gang takedowns. It's believed that these gang indictments that saw the arrests of prominent olders would result in the youngers taking over. Around 2000.
We're gonna pause it right there. Let's go do it. We're gonna catch y'all in the next video. In the next part of the video. Damn, I didn't even know. Wait, so are they all beefing? But some people in certain gangs fuck with other people in the other gangs that they are all beefing with. I was kind of confused for a little bit, but it's cool. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video.